Hey guys, welcome back to Devil's Food Kitchen. I'm Chef Scott. This week I wanted to showcase a few cookbook recommendations from my personal collection. These are pastry and baking oriented cookbooks for pastry and baking oriented people, although I think they would fit in anyone's kitchen. And I have to mention, like all the cool kids these days, I am part of the Amazon.com influencer program, so you can find all of these books in the description below. And if you click on those links, Amazon gives me a little kickback, which helps support putting on more videos. So I appreciate any support in that regard. This list is by no means definitive. There are so many great pastry cookbooks out there, and hopefully we'll cover more of those in the future. This is just 5 from my collection that I thought could get someone started on a solid collection of their own. So I think we should get started with book number 1. My first book recommendation is The Flavor Thesaurus by Nikki Segnet. Flavor combination, flavor pairing is a difficult topic and a difficult task for people new to it. It can be really overwhelming understanding what flavors to pair. When you want to be really creative and start thinking outside of the box, it can be difficult to know where to start. And I think this book is a great way to help someone on that path. This has both sweet and savory flavor combinations, but I think it's completely valuable if you are only doing pastry or you're only doing savory. It's helpful to understand flavor pairing across the whole spectrum of food. And rather than it being just really technical and kind of breaking things down scientifically, there's a lot of anecdotal information in this, stories behind certain recipes or flavor pairings that I think make it interesting to read beyond just a sort of reference book. So if you are interested in how to pair flavors together, or you feel that that's one of your personal challenges that you're working to overcome, I think The Flavor Thesaurus could be a great book for you. Now, I hesitate to do this, but if there was just one book that you were to purchase off of this video, this one might be it. This is an absolute classic in the culinary world. It's something every chef, cook, baker, pastry professional should have on their shelf. And some of you probably already know what it is. It's On Food and Cooking by Harold McGee. Now, Harold McGee is probably the godfather of food science and molecular gastronomy in terms of making it applicable to the culinary world and the general public. And this is his volume on the subject. It covers so much information. Again, this is pastry and savory, but it is so worth having. The book is dense with information, but not in a way that is difficult or unpleasant to read. I've read this book probably 3 or 4 times at least, simply because it's really interesting. It's scientific and technical in nature, but not from a textbook perspective. The writing style is really easy to understand and contemplate, and getting a really solid foundation on food science is that crucial link from replicating a recipe to creating your own. Understanding food science gives you serious power in the kitchen to troubleshoot and manage what you're making, and this is definitely a book in that direction. This is a must, an absolute must if you want to take your cooking to the next level. Harold McGee, thank you, sir, for your contributions. Like just about everybody else in the world who can eat it, I absolutely love bread. There's just something about it. It's elemental in our connection with food as a civilization. And it would be wrong of me to not have at least one good bread book in this little list. Now, there are so many good bread books out there, but my selection for today is the Tartine Cookbook by Chad Robertson. I have tremendous respect for Chad Robertson. He makes phenomenal bread. If you're ever in the Bay Area, I highly suggest going to Tartine or the newer Tartine Manufactory. And this is his bread book for the everyday home baker. Now, I'm not saying you're gonna make bread like Chad Robertson by getting this book, but the way he describes his process, fermentation, autolyse, all of the little intricacies of artisan bread is really going to help in your own bread baking. This book has a beautiful, appropriately down-to-earth, folky photography, including step-by-step photos, and a lot of anecdotal and biographical information about Chad himself, his path to bread baking that I just found really interesting. There are some cookbooks that I read specifically for the information, and there's some that I read because I want to know a little bit about the author or about the story behind the information. And this one has a little bit of both. So Tartine Bread Book, highly recommended. On the other end of the spectrum in terms of style is my next book on the list, The Elements of Dessert by Chef Francisco Migoya. He's an incredibly intelligent, creative, artistic pastry chef, and all of his work is really on the cutting edge in terms of style and technique. This book is definitely a representation of that. The book features individual recipes and composed desserts across a wide variety of pastry applications. It even includes a mini flavor pairing guide in typically outlined scientific fashion, which I personally really love. So from cover to cover, this has a ton of information. It is highly marked for inspiration and recipes. I love all of his stuff. He has a true artistic vision, but behind all of that, which is crucial for any great pastry chef, is solid techniques, fundamentals, flavors. It is well documented, well organized, well laid out. I think it's a fantastic book for any pastry professional to have. The last book on my list is Well Worn with Love and unfortunately flood damage, but I didn't have the heart to get rid of it and get a new one because I have taken so many notes in this book over the years. It's one of those deserted island books that if I could only have one with me, this just might be it. It's How Baking Works by Paula Figoni. Similar to Harold McGee's On Food and Cooking, this is food science broken down for anyone to understand. This is the secret weapon to why I understand food science the way I do now. Unlike On Food and Cooking, this one is specific to pastry and baking. The book is similar to a textbook in that at the end of each chapter are comprehension quizzes and some exercises to understand the concepts, but unlike a lot of textbooks, the writing style is really easy to understand. There's not a lot of information here that's hard to comprehend for the lay person. So if you are new to food science, this is great because it gives you immediate answers and information that you can apply to your recipes in your kitchen. I use this as an essential guide when I was an instructor at pastry school. It helped me answer all of the hows and whys that my students asked before I really knew the answers. This is truly indispensable. So there you have it, 5 books that I think every pastry or baking enthusiast should have in their kitchen. Although really, these books apply to anyone who loves food. I think there's a ton of information in all of these that anyone can get inspired from. And of course, this is not a definitive list, just 5 I picked off my shelf because I use them a lot in my own kitchen for inspiration and information. We'll be covering more books in the future, not to worry. Until next time, thanks for watching. I'm Chef Scott for Devil's Food Kitchen.